to welcome everybody to the Fair Rent Commission meeting of February 4th, 2025. We join with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, do I have your permission to do an introduction to the Commission tonight or today to go over your charge in this case?
Yes, you do.
As a reminder, people from the audience should not speak, and the Commission cannot ask any questions of Attorney Pascal. I don't know if the tenant's attorney plans to be here, but the evidentiary portion, we call this, of this hearing, it has been closed. So there can be no new testimony, there can be no new exhibits, you're not allowed to ask for clarification. You can remind one another what your memory is of what someone may have said. But I also remind you that you have before you in your packets Plaintiff's Exhibit A, and the pages have been numbered so that this hearing, the deliberations included, are being recorded. And if there is an appeal to New London Superior Court, it's important that if you're referencing Plaintiff's Exhibit A, which is the tenant's exhibit, that those pages are numbered, because it makes it easier for everyone to know that you're on page 44 or 2 or whatever it is. Alpha Capital's exhibits are Defendants 1, and those are also numbered. The Commission, and you should probably ask through the chairman, but you are welcome to ask questions of me about questions of law, about clarification on the ordinance, clarifications on the general statute. You cannot ask me what I remembered from the hearing in terms of what someone may have said or asked for or what the exhibits mean. That is, anything regarding facts are entirely within your purview. Does the Commission have the ordinance, the town's ordinance in their packets? That is it, Mr. Vilchek. do have a copy here. The reason that it's important that you have the ordinance in front of you is that both the state statute and the town's ordinance give you the 13 factors that you must take into consideration when during your deliberations and when coming to conclusions today. So we're going to wait and make sure that you have that, because you'll want to go over them. While we're waiting for that, we can go over another suggestion I have for you. We know that you are faced with 10 tenants to discuss during these deliberations, and I urge you to discuss each tenant on their own merits, because one of the factors is the income of the tenant. That's not the only factor, but we know from the exhibits that you have before you that the tenants, their incomes are different. You can choose to ignore that. You don't have to decide every factor of these 13 factors in our statute. Or our ordinance, some do not apply at all in this matter. For instance, whether the landlord claimed that the tenant had caused damage to the unit. I sat in on this. I think I can say safely that I did not hear any testimony that any of these tenants had damaged their unit. So that's one factor that you would obviously ignore. But it's up to you to go through these factors and see what you want to apply. But those are the factors that your decision, one or the ones that apply, would come into play in your deliberations today. So for that reason, I'm going to ask you to take each tenant and decide what you're going to do with that tenant, and then one person, the chairman will ask someone to make a motion, move that tenant Joe Jones gets either this rent increase, no and rent increase, or whatever it is that your motion is. Then the commission, someone would second that motion, then the commission would vote as a whole. Yes, Mr. Horgan.
I thought we stipulated that our decision will apply to all 10 across the board, obviating the necessity to go through each tenant's income or resources. I think we can cite to that when we make our decision. We might say, for instance, Tanya Harris is making this or Brennan's making that, but I think we can all agree and point to the evidence of one percentage of increase that's applicable to all 10, and I believe counsel for both parties stipulated to that.
Yes, but counsel for both parties, while I have tremendous respect for both of them, that approach concerns me, because I'm thinking of it from an appellate standpoint. If tenant Y chooses to appeal to the Superior Court, but tenant Z does not, when the court is examining what this commission did, it may say, well, what factors with tenant Y did you take into account when making your decision on tenant Y? Now, this commission has wide discretion, but that approach, I will only say, concerns me from a 13-factor point of view. Now, I know that the attorneys before you today may not agree with me, and that is certainly their right, but it's up to the commission to decide. So does everyone have the 13 or the ordinance before them? And perhaps, Mr. Horgan, if you look at those, the evidence of comparable rents in town and area, unsanitary conditions, a number of showers, bathtubs are under plumbing, what else is included. Many of these factors are the same for all of the tenants across the board, but certain of them are not. And that would, again, be up to you. But one that stands out to me, if you choose to decide that, is the income of the tenant. And you can ignore that factor. That is certainly within your purview. But that's one of the 13. As I say, whether the landlord claimed that the tenant had caused damage is not an issue in this matter. And the amount and frequency of rent increases over the duration of the tenancy, that's something that you would have to decide. And again, to decide it whether you're able to do that across the board or whether each one is different is up to you. And the final one, the extent to which income from the increase would be reinvested in the property, you have heard testimony regarding that. The standards in the ordinance that you must consider are whether the proposed rent is so excessive as to be harsh and unconscionable. That's in the ordinance. And if so, whether a rent increase or reduction or leave it the same is fair and equitable, and if so, in what amount. That is what you must consider today when making your consideration. So I recommend that you decide in each case whether to order a rent increase, deny a rent increase, approved a phased-in rent increase, and when appropriate, delay a rent increase where the landlord has to comply with any health and safety requirements to make any necessary repairs. Again, that's when appropriate. I should also tell you that I've read a lot of these cases from other towns in Connecticut. It is extremely rare that an order would last more than a year. So I ask that you take that into consideration when entering your decision. And just as a housekeeping matter, you'll make those motions tonight. Ms. Konakowicz will take them down, write them down. Then within the next few days, she will send them to the chair. She will send each person's decision to the chairperson, and he will sign off on that. Then they will be mailed out, so that the 30-day decision period that the tenants have to appeal is 30 days from the date your decision is mailed. You can make your decisions tonight, but you won't get the actual forms to sign until sometime this week. Do you have any questions of me? Thank you. I'll be right here if you need me.
Mr. Chairman, I took the suggestion early on this weekend and typed up the 13 points. And I made a few comments on each. And I've done this generally from a fully applicable to all 10 people. And I think it covers generally everything we're looking at from a broad brush. But again, we could look at specifics as we go by. So if you would like, I will do the presentation.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, of the 13 items, as you say, the first one is rent charges of the same number of rooms, other housing accommodations, and the same in other comparable areas of the municipality. And I'd like to also references A and B, I guess the complainants and the owners. A lot of the properties that were listed in their examples and enclosures and so forth are very, very similar. For example, I'll call one at 377 Main Street. I put square footage at 806 square feet. Price is $1,900 a month, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, okay? Both call the same thing. So I'm going to combine two of these and say that the rents that were presented for the landlord were to justify his increases, as I understand it. Number 9, income of the petitioner and availability of accommodations. The second part of that, availability, is what I'm talking about. There's a comparison. That availability was based on what the tenants could afford looking at other housing within East Lyme and local areas. And again, I find, and I will enter this at exhibit if you wish, these properties are very similar, very close, which tells me that there is a reasonable assumption on the landlord's part that the rent increase is justified, and a reasonable assumption on the tenant side that the rents are too high overall, including the landlord. So looking at that, I looked at it again and I said, well, the current range from, I think it's exhibit, whichever the tenants provided, the range of current bedrooms at East Lyme are between 1,000 and 2,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, and a 2-bedroom. So food for thought here is similarities. No one is right or wrong here. It's a similar application. I will note that 468 Main Street, which is on both, is in fact the Alpha property, and their advertised price range is $1,900 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. 2-bedroom, 1-bath is $2,500. That was from Exhibit A, which is the landlord's exhibit. So they are a little bit above some of the other prices in town. Item 2, the sanitary conditions existing in the housing accommodations in question. I didn't hear or read any significant deficiencies here. I don't see the tenants. They reported there was an instance of trash about, some clogged hallways with appliances, but I understand they also then said that that was cleaned up very rapidly, so I don't see that as an ongoing issue for consideration. Number 3, number of bathrooms, showers, flush water closets, kitchen sinks, lavatory basins, availability to the occupants thereof. I did not hear any issues on that particular item from either side. Number 4, services, furniture, furnishings, equipment supplied therein. The apartments are carpeted, they have appliances, they have air conditioning units. I think one of the units had some filter problems, which was corrected. I also understand as an offshoot of that, this is another item later, but I'll address it now. Some of the appliances are being replaced, upgraded within the units. There was somebody testified, Tanya Harris, that yes, that was in fact true. She appreciated that, but that the appliances were being provided were of lesser quality, smaller refrigerators, didn't meet the standards of the previous appliances. Number 5, the size and number of bedrooms contained therein. I don't think anybody had an issue with that from the landlord or the tenant side. Number 9, the income of the petitioner and availability. I'm going to talk the availability essentially, but if we're going to address each one of these tenants separately, I'll leave that to that particular time for the income. Item number 10, the availability of utilities. I don't see an issue there from any side. None of the documentation, none of the testimony said there was an issue. All appropriate utilities are on site. It was amplified by tenants pay their own electricity, their own heat, their own hot water, and their Wi-Fi separately from the rent. Gleaning from the exhibit from the tenants, the electricity averages between $80 and $160 a month, again, in addition to the rent. Item 11, damages done to the premises by the tenant caused by other than ordinary wear and tear. I did not hear any significant issues from the landlord, except that on occasion, washing machines, coin slots were jammed with what appeared to be slugs or something of a foreign nature. Other than that, repairs, there was a listing of repairs in the landlord's exhibit that were done during the, I guess, 6 months that Alpha has owned the property, and that all of those repairs were done promptly, efficiently, according to the landlord. Also indicated there were some comments by the tenants that they were very, very happy with the performance of those repairs. Number 12, the amount and frequency of increase in rental charge. Again, I'm looking at the documents, both exhibits, and we're looking at charges that range from $450 to $600 over the 10 tenants, which we could address separately too when we look at their incomes. And that was for a period from June to December of 2024 under Alpha's ownership. And those increases amount to, again, 38 to 60% increases on average. Item number 13, whether and the extent to which the income from an increase in rental charges has been or will be reinvested in improvements to the accommodations. We are already told that carpets, rugs, appliances, other updates are in fact occurring. So there was some work by the owners, and again I have here tenants did state that the new improvements, the new appliances were inferior quality to the old items. So I think in providing that, it's kind of an overview that applies to each and every tenant and the landlord from a perspective that we should be considering.
Well, like you said, there were no major issues with any of these things,
No?
so that's a good way to start. If there weren't any complaints, then we probably should start looking at each individual and look at their income.
I agree, unless there are other introductory comments.
Anything else you want to bring up?
I just feel that a 30% to a 60% increase for anybody is a little outrageous. I mean,
We can't hear you.
sorry. I was saying that I think that a 39 to a 60% increase in one full amount is a little bit extreme. Even though it compares to some of the other rentals in the area, but to have it all at one time is very extreme.
Mr. Chair, if I can make a few comments.
Absolutely.
Thank you. First of all, I want to commend the parties and those that were sworn under oath and gave testimony. It was civil, you were respectful to each other, and I think that's so important in proceedings like this, so I commend all of you. I believe each party were sincere in their beliefs that their side and the evidence they presented was the most persuasive. So I do believe each party came to the hearings in good faith. As my brother said, you can interpret the data presented for either side. That isn't so lopsided on one side or the not. We all understand Alpha's concern. They've made an investment in our hometown, and we welcome that. We want to make sure they're successful, and hopefully they're true to their word that they intend to be long-term partners. One of the things that struck me, and I believe we're able to consider that under Factor 13 when we look at all other circumstances, is they have 40 out of the available 60 units under contract, some of which have been approved under the hefty rental increases. So that leaves 8 left at fair market value that they're petitioning to rent, and these 10 that they want to throw the increases on. So I look at that and I say to myself, they are recouping their investment just on that fact alone, having the 40 out of the 60 rented at some pretty hefty prices. So I don't see that they need to recoup, and I'm mindful of what Alpha has laid out and what they've done for improvements. I don't think they need to recoup so much at once. So on its face, the 38% to 55% suggested increases are excessive to me on their face. On the other hand, the tenants who gave some persuasive testimony have to understand that things can't remain the same, especially when you look at the location that these apartments are in. So close to the water, so close to the boardwalk, so close to the parks, so accessible within walking distance to the downtown area. So I don't believe their 7 to 10% range is also fair. I believe there's a range between the 10% high end and the 38% low end of the landlord that the evidence can show we can come to some agreement.
Well said.
I second that, and I apologize because I missed a page on reading those 13 items. And if I can reiterate, it comes in, it's are repairs necessary? I don't think those repairs are necessary. Item 7 was the amount of taxes, overhead expenses, incurring debt service thereof. All of that was presented, and to support what you're saying is there's an amount that was provided that monthly losses were $3,000.
Excuse me.
Okay, Charlie. And to his point, if you have these 10 units filled, I think you're going to occupy, you're going to take care of that loss of $3,000. In addition, if there's a small increase in rent to the 10 tenants, that also adds to the decrease of that $3,000 loss. So I think generally speaking, coming together with new rentals at market rate, maybe a slight increase for the current tenants are going to more than satisfy, from what I read, from the landlord to recoup their losses and provide a bit of profit. 13 points, done.
Mr. Chair, could I make a motion that we vote on whether or not, based on the evidence presented, that the suggested rental increases from 38% to 55% are excessive on its face?
Yes.
Anybody second that motion?
Second it?
We vote on it? Raise your hand that it's excessive?
Aye.
So it's unanimous that it's excessive. So now we can go over individually and look at the income to determine a fair increase?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a couple comments?
Yes.
Number one, going back to item number 1, the rent's charged for the same number of rooms and other accommodations in the same and other areas of municipality. I think that we really need to look at that. One of the issues was the size of those units. If you're just going to break it down to the number of bedrooms and bathrooms, it's one thing, but as I recall, from testimony, I think it was 581 square feet was the smallest one, and some of the comparables were substantially more, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500 range. So to look at those, even though they may have the same number of bedrooms, I think we should consider that as an issue. And the other item I'd like to bring up right now, and also the amenities to go along with that. It's not only the rooms and the count and the size, but the amenities that are available on site for each one of those properties. The other item I have a question about is number 7, when they refer to the amount of taxes and reasonable overhead. Taxes are taxes, and that's, unfortunately the world I come from. But the overhead, one of the items of the overhead was the way in which the landlord decided to finance that and therefore bring the cost in. And I think we should take a look at that, because you're noting that there was a $3,000 shortage from the landlord's presentation. I forget the exact number, but I think when you're looking at that, you have to realize that they financed a very high percentage of the property at 10.99 for a shorter period of time, and I think that those expenses are out of market, are traditional market. So I just want to bring that to everybody's attention. That's all at the present time.
Anybody else have anything they want to put in, or do you want to just go right to the tenants?
The tenants, good.
Ready to go right to the tenants?
Yep.
Well, start at the top. John Vasco. Do we have his income?
The,
About $4,600 a
yes.
month. Current rent $1,000, proposed rent $1,600.
All right, well, he's paying $1,000.
And his square footage is
It'd be a one bedroom, so it's 581.
581.
He's got another smaller one.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that Mr. Vasco's rent increase would be 10%.
$100.
Any second?
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Chairman, now you would open it up for discussion among your
Yes.
commission members.
Okay.
That's only 10%.
That's $100.
Well,
I'm looking at the square footage.
what do you take into consideration about the market?
I could be persuaded.
150, 200, probably sounds a little more realistic. Remember, we're trying to be fair to both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And at $4,600 a month, that's not going to hurt him.
I would, Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my motion to increase by 10%.
We have another motion?
For point of discussion, I'll put out an increase of $200 to consider
Is there a motion?
as a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Can I just insert for a period of time, as was
1 year.
suggested? 1 year.
1 year.
Retroactive to January 1st, 2025.
Correct.
You have the option of going retroactive to the date the complaint was filed.
Okay.
Which is September.
I do not know that. I have the complaints here.
My only thing is, if we go back to September, are they going to have to pay all of that at one time, and do they have the available funds to come up with that?
They can structure that. I think we can have that structured.
You can structure that,
An extra $100 a month until they're caught up.
or you can choose that it is from today's date. or any date you choose, but you can phase it in.
They can do it this
I
month.
think we should just do it
Phase it in
starting
at
today.
$100 a
I
month.
just think the accounting and the paperwork and the follow-up, there, a lot of things could slip through the cracks, so you know, we're talking about a $200 increase.
But you're
That-
going back to September.
I would go back just to the beginning of this year.
We could-
I'll
we do
second that.
Let's go back to January?
You may.
Oh, that's fine, we'll just go back to
Okay.
January. I thought we couldn't do that. Okay.
Can I understand the motion, is that to increase 200 retroactive to January 1st, 2025?
Correct.
Yes, that's my
For a
motion.
12-month period through the end of this year.
Did we made a motion, and you
Yes.
seconded it, did we all approve it?
Mike
gotta vote.
made a motion, Dan seconded.
Yeah, but did
And
we
let me
approve
just
it?
make sure, so the motion is to increase Mr. Vasco's rent by $200 retroactive to January 1st, 2025 for a period of 1 year.
Correct.
Now, how is he gonna pay that extra $100? Are we gonna let him do like $50 for the next 2 months? Or does it have to be,
But he only owes for January.
and then February?
Yeah, so that's $200. An extra $200 he's gotta come up with.
Well, it'd be an extra 400.
Well, he has to pay his rent for this month then.
Okay.
We have a vote on it?
Yeah, do we have a
All in
vote?
favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I want to point out to the commission also that going back to the date that the applications were filed is not really appropriate in this circumstance because you're a new commission and it took us so long to get to this point. There was a delay that, you know, in the future you can, the hearings will be a lot quicker. So
Okay.
that makes sense from a legal perspective that you would go to January 1.
Yeah, we assume it'll be a lot quicker.
Yes,
This is brand new and everybody had to kind of put this all together.
exactly. And so there was definitely a delay.
So can we move on now?
Yep.
All right, so now we're gonna try Tanya Harris. Do we have her income?
$2,600.
Now, if I remember correctly, she's got a daughter and she's having a pretty rough time. And I believe she's
She's,
already trying to pay.
I believe she agreed temporarily to increase to 2,000 until we decided.
No, I don't think she's paying that much, was she?
They wanted her to go to 2,400, I believe, and they negotiated 2,000 until the complaint was heard.
Her current rent was $1,450, increased $550, proposed rent $2,000.
and she's
And
disabled.
her complaint indicates that she's paying $2,000 now.
Yeah, well, she only makes $2,600 a month, so
Right,
that's,
and she is disabled.
and she's disabled.
Mm-hmm.
And the square footage of her unit?
Hers are two bedrooms. Hers are 2 bedrooms, so it's
2 bedrooms would be, no,
and she was paying
Yeah.
$1,450 before without a problem.
1126.
I don't know how, it's a good
I'd make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to increase the past rent of $1,450 by 15%.
Increase the $1,450 by 15%. So that's,
Oh,
that's like $200 something dollars.
it's how much?
Before you go into the discussion, somebody want a second?
15% would change that to $1,667.50 a month.
Mr. Chairman, before you begin discussion, someone has to second that motion.
Yes. Well, we were just figuring out the number first
Okay,
before we second
all
it.
right.
We want to see if it's even feasible.
15% of $1,450 is $217, which
Right,
is
so-
higher than Right. John Vasco's $200 increase.
Right.
And I have a question. What I read on the complaint is that she's now paying $2,000 a month, and proposed / current rent on the documentation says $2,000. So is she really paying $2,000 at this point?
My understanding, yeah, but she's having a really hard time doing it.
Yeah, she said that she borrows money every month to pay
Well,
her rent.
my point being is that if she's paying $2,000 now, do we want to raise it, or do we want to decrease from 2,000?
Oh, we definitely want to decrease.
We
Yeah.
want to decrease.
Yeah.
Yeah, the motion is based on the 1450,
Yeah.
what she was paying when Alpha purchased it. And provided her with a $2,400 increase.
I'm a soft heart. I'm thinking 10%.
I'll second the 10%.
If it's under discussion, I'm thinking 7%, which was what was requested in this particular tenant's case. That's my thought.
Mr. Chairman, it would be perfectly appropriate for the commission, if you choose, because even though it's not in evidence, it's part of the application process, to look at each tenant's complaint. Would that be helpful to you? It clarifies certain questions that you're having.
Well, we can do that.
And I do have a copy of every one. Oh, and you do, they do too? So I'm looking at Tonya Harris's complaint dated September 11th. And it has a lot of information that I think you're looking for.
Well, she's saying it's an unfair raise in rent. Alpha Capital took over and raised the rent immediately. Becoming the landlord, I was given 1 month to come up with $800 increase. I'm disabled on Social Security disability. Even though I couldn't afford a new lease, I had no choice to sign it because no affordable housing elsewhere. If I go month to month, Alpha would add another $150 on top of the high rent increase. I explained my situation, but they're not willing to negotiate, but said that $2,000 or go month to month or more. Once again, if I had signed a lease, I cannot pay it. And I have explained that to them, but they didn't care about my situation. Rent is more than I could afford. And the other comment that I saw was that the increase in August 2024, Alpha wanted $2,250. That was the 800 increase. And in September, I guess they agreed to decrease it to $200 a month. So as I gather from this, I'm assuming that she's been paying $2,000 a month since September of 2024. And she further says this increase is not sustainable. They also harass you if you can't pay that on time. And that's a quote from her submission.
looking at the 7%, which was the baseline on the lower end that Tenants Council suggested. 7% of the initial $1,450 is a little over $100. We could increase the rent to $1,550, giving her a $450 credit retroactively from September going forward. So she's been paying $2,000 since September, October, November, December, assuming she's paid January of $2,000. That's 5 months of $2,000. We could increase the rent 7%, $100 to $1,550, and she gets a $450 credit each month. So 450 times 5 is what?
$2,250.
She would get a credit, assuming the commission approved a $100 increase, but then it goes retroactive, so she gets the credit for the money she'd been paying since September, and extend it for a year. It would give her a nice leeway for several months before she would have to start paying the $1,550.
And you don't think 10% is too much?
No, council said 7 to 10%, so I think that is in the range of reasonableness. I'm just looking at her circumstances and her specific complaints. I found her to be very credible, and I would lean towards the lower side of the 7 to 10%. What do you think?
That also falls in line with, if you're going back and reading her affidavit, that she went in originally July of 21 at, I believe it was $1,250 a month, and July of 23, 2 years, her rent went up $200, so that was effectively $100 a month. A year, $100 a month each year. So, just a point of information.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to increase Tanya Harris's rent $100 for the sum of $1,550, retroactive to September 1st, 2024, and extending that lease period. We can go beyond. Can we go to the end of the year, Council? Or are we limited to 12 months?
You can go to the end of the year.
I would, so the proposal would be to make it retroactive to September 1st, 2024, and extend it through December of 2025.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on. Peter Roberts. We have his income.
$4,100.
And we should probably take a look at his complaint also.
His complaint is excessive rent increase by new owners, Alpha Capital, plus 60%, $625. If I sign a new lease by 9/30/24, after been given 10-day notice. Otherwise, increased by 86% to an additional $900 if I don't sign a new lease by 9/30/2024. Previous rent increase was 7% or $70 from an amount of $980 to $1,050 after 2 years from his original lease. I would expect an increase on some order of about $70 to $100 after 2 years from my previous increase.
What size is his apartment? It's a one-bedroom.
So that would be 581 square feet.
This is 581? So
581.
It's on the smaller side. And he's paying right now. Is he paying the new rent or not?
$1,050.
He's paying $1,050 right now. And they want to raise it to $625. 580 square feet. 4,100, 4,600.
And his monthly income is 4,200, roughly, 41.
My suggestion is probably the same as John Vasco. Similar apartments, similar rents, fairly close to the same income.
And I don't see,
On a dollar amount or a percentage? A dollar amount would be a $200 increase.
Right.
A percentage would be $210 if you applied to say. Not that it's a big difference, but consistency. 20% would be
210.
I'm just,
$210?
for consistency, I would make a motion that his rent was raised to, by $210 to $1,260.
I'll second that.
That's fine.
say that again?
20%.
And that would be from 1/1,
Yeah.
again, for 1 year.
For the rest of the year. So who made the motion?
I'll make the motion.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Cheryl Cantalon. We have her income.
$2,200 a month.
And she lives in
Wait, who are we talking?
she lives in a one-bedroom, one bath. Do we know the size of that unit?
I'm sorry,
Look at her complaint.
I am retired, $2,117 Social Security is what I live on. I don't work, I'm 78 years old, cardiac issues, blind in one eye.
Do we have the size of her apartment?
It's a one-bedroom,
Yeah.
it is 581 square feet.
Okay.
He had a rent increase, according to her complaint, of $100 in 2022. And it looks like the increase was $1,150 to $1,950 on August 1st, 2024. That's what he's asking, but I'm not sure that's exactly what she's paying.
It says she signed the new lease out of fear of eviction. So I'm assuming she's paying that.
Cheryl said that? Okay.
She's paying $1,600.
I got it.
Proposed
Okay.
rent. Is that what she's paying?
Although it says 1150 now, it's a little confusing.
It is. And this says paying $1,150, proposed to $1,950.
So maybe she signed the lease and didn't pay the rent.
New proposed rent $1,650.
Well, she's paying, so presently she's paying current rent $1,150.
which is approximately half of her income.
Regardless of what she's paying, the accounting books will show, so we can incorporate a credit in any decision we make, so that can be figured out. Let's just focus on what she was paying and what fair increase do we want to assign from January 1st, and then we'll acknowledge anything she's paid over that since August or September, she gets a credit.
I think I can propose to the commission, I'm reading her letter to Mr. Cunningham dated October 10th, 24. Do you have that in front of you? So when she says she signed a new lease, we know that her rent increased from $11.50 a month to $19.50 per month.
Right, but they're not charging her that.
I think under these circumstances, since we never heard any testimony from her, maybe we can take a short break and I can speak to both counsel outside to clarify that one point.
It's in the documentation
Okay.
that we gave, there's like a list of all the tenants, and there's a summary of like what is going on.
Okay. Maybe can you
If
point
it's
out the
still unclear,
page?
then we can.
Second page.
Okay, so plaintiff's A, page 2, has Cheryl Cantillon and proposed current rent $19.50. Do you have that information before you, that she's paying $19.50? And that is nothing new in the record other than what's been provided to you.
So what you're saying, she's paying $19.50 right now?
Yes, from what yes.
I don't know how she can, with only $200 a month.
I think, we didn't get that testimony from her, but that is the evidence you have before you.
The one I have in front of me says current rent $11.50, increase $800, proposed rent $19.50.
Mr. Chairman, if you look at page 2 on Exhibit A, under her name, it says cost rent $11.50, proposed current rent $19.50.
Okay. I didn't have that one in front of me.
So that is the evidence that you have before you, that she is paying $19.50.
Wow. And she's been paying that for how long?
Well, I think that you can safely assume, maybe under these circumstances, Attorney Pascal, do you know how long she's been paying that?
I do. Something around since September, but I don't know for.
Well, because she says in her letter to Mr. Cunningham,
She has here that her rent increase was August 1st of 2024.
that's correct, in the letter that you have before you to our first selectman, she says, then in July, I was informed that my rent would be increased from $11.50 a month to $19.50 a month. And her lease expired on July 31, 24.
Okay. So,
And Again, under the rental terms, it says, do you have a written agreement or lease with your landlord? She checked yes, expired 7/31/24. And then it says on the next page of her application, what is the effective date of the increase? August 1, 2024. And she says above that in section 1, what is the amount that your landlord is now asking for rent? $19.50 a month, effective August 1, 24.
So he's paying $19.50.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to take the base rent of $11.50 and increase it $150, which is a little less than 15%. That would be $1,300 a month, retroactive to August 1st of 2024, meaning she gets a credit of $650 a month starting in August, September, October, November, December, and then into January, and extend that $1,300 a month through the end of 2025.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
I'm just a little bit concerned about that because of her total income that she has, her ability to pay. Maybe she's been paying, I'm not sure how. But if you look at the two that we did prior to that, the two small 581 square foot units, we ended up with about a $1,250 a month. So I would propose $1,250. In fact, I would propose $1,250 a month instead of $13, only to keep it in line with the other two that we did. That's approximately 8% increase. Again, if we go back to the first one, we're going from 1,000 to 1,200. The next one, we're going from 1,050 to 1,260. This one would put it again in that 1,250, 1,260 range for the same size unit. And you know, even with her ability to pay, could even justify the 7%, which was the minimum that was presented, which would bring it to 1,230.
But if you look at the Vasco decision and the Roberts decision, their rents were lower than the $1,400 as a base rent that we're considering. And the income of Cheryl Cantillon is less than those other two as well.
Mm-hmm.
So she's starting at a higher past rent than the other two that you're discussing, I think.
Well, there has to be an increase.
Yeah,
There's got to be an
that
increase.
could be increased, but I don't think quite as much as was suggested.
You don't think 100 is too much?
I think 100 would be appropriate.
Then make a motion. Well, somebody got to decline to have a motion.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Then you make a
Mr.
motion for that.
I make a motion that we increase her rent by $100 a month. And, say again?
No, go ahead.
Through the end of 2025. And as was previously motioned, a credit, and that would be $600 a month from August through January.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Say aye.
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 All right. Now we go to Louis Delibet. I don't know if I pronounced it right. We have, let's go to his complaint and then let's see what his income is.
4,100. What is it? 4,100. I'm sorry, 2,200. I was looking at the wrong guy.
Rent before the landlord increase was $14.50, and his complaint also says the now asking price is $22.50. The effective date of the increase, he indicates, is February 1st of 2025.
He's a two-bedroom, one bath, so he's one of the bigger ones.
Very, very similar to Tanya Harris. Perhaps without the restrictions that Tanya has.
$2,200.
He's lived there 2 years. Same income as Tanya. Oh, Tanya was what, 26?
Actually less.
She's less.
Yeah.
Same as Cantalon. We only went up 100 on hers.
Yeah, he's also a two-bedroom. I don't know why.
Does he live there by himself?
I'm trying to determine.
I point out to the commission that in Mr. Holobat's complaint before you, on page 1, model tenant complaint form, it says additional adult occupants, and there is no one listed.
I see that.
Oh, I guess he lives alone.
Yep.
Wonder why he needs a two-bedroom.
Yeah. Interesting.
A lot.
They're kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, with an extra bedroom and bath. I don't.
What did we raise Tanya's to?
Tanya's? $15.50. I'm almost inclined to follow suit on Tanya's without
How old he is.
the rebate,
I
since
don't see
this
any
was
of that in his
February
report.
1st.
Mm-hmm.
No. Pretty similar, except the time frame.
That's fine. I'll second it.
Okay. I make a motion that we increase the rent for Louis Pellebeau from the current rent of $14.50 by $100 to $15.50, which is set by precedent on another unit. Since this takes effect on February 1st, which is current, as with the other tenant, I see no reason to provide any credit for any previous rent for 1 year through the end of 2025.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on down to Sandra Brennan. We have her income and
$2,400 a month.
Excuse me, can I just clarify? You said for 1 year, are you looking for that to be effective through January 31st of 2026?
December.
December 31st,
Okay.
sure.
December 31st, 2025.
2025.
yes.
His lease is not up until February 1st.
Oh,
Well, then it'll go to February 1st.
That's within your discretion.
Yeah,
Well, that's
it'll go
right.
till the lease ends.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Agree.
I will second that based on that change.
Let's see anything in her complaint other than this rent increase. You're over 62 and she's disabled.
I compare it to John Vasco, although John's monthly income is doubled Sandra. So I'd make a motion to increase Sandra's rent by $100 as opposed to $200 and make that applicable through the end of 2025.
So that would be $11.50. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
If I can make a comment and
Yes.
discussion, I'm looking at her complaint, and this hasn't surfaced before, but she's indicated that she had to pay $500 to have mold removed, dirty carpet to be cleaned.
Yes.
I don't know if we should bring that to bear.
She's probably already paid it, she agreed to paying it, so
Yeah.
you might as well just leave well enough alone.
Okay,
She should have made an issue about it then.
okay.
Landlord should have easily taken care of that. They didn't.
And she has a lease from December 1st of 2024, but it was pre-sent, I guess, on a monthly basis right now, according to her complaint. So, just comments, but I agree with the proposal.
So who made the motion?
I did.
Who seconded it?
I did.
No more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay. Caroline Haretta. Do you have her income?
Yes.
3,600.
And this is a one-bedroom, one-bath. She describes her problem as unfair and unresolvable rent increase. This has been my home for 12 years. I have been a little difficult battling cancer. If I had to leave, I would need doctors, and she can't afford more than an $800 rent increase. So the amount paid now, she says, is $1,050. Amount proposed, $1,900. Written contract expires March 31st of 2025.
That's when her lease is up?
Say again?
Her lease is up in March?
March 31st of this year.
The stove and dishwasher are both badly outdated.
Rugs, paint.
Rugs and paint are starting to look shabby. I haven't bothered with it, but at the same time, this apartment is not worth the what? The no, something wrong. Must be a new increase or something. So actually, the apartment does need some sprucing up.
Well, after renting for 12 years,
That happened.
it was probably not, I can't speculate.
$3,600 and she's paying $1,050.
Do we have a size on this unit?
It's a one bath, or one bedroom, 581
$580.
square feet. To me, it sounds similar to Sandra Brennan with a slightly higher income for Carolyn Panorata.
The complaints about the condition probably bring it directly in line with Sandra Brennan.
Yeah.
Are we talking about Caroline?
Yes.
And
Yes.
on her second page, go on the second page, and see where it says total household income? Oh, theirs is different than mine.
Oh, that's not what the
Right, you see that?
70K it says. Well, in the exhibit though, it says her income is $36.25 a month
And this is 70K.
times 12. That's not 70.
It appears she's still working, or I'm not sure. The line under that says graphic designer.
Yeah.
Well, that would make sense. It was graphic designer. She could be making 70K.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure we were talking about the same person.
Mm-hmm. That's quite a discrepancy.
May I ask where you're seeing the discrepancy? I missed that. I'm looking at Caroline Parada's application,
On,
or her complaint form, I should say.
on the second page,
Mm-hmm.
it says total household income, 70K.
I don't have that.
Item 14.
Where that's heat, gas, dishwasher, all of that.
I see.
Others specify, look down, 11, 12, 13, 14. 70K, total household income.
Yes, so, and again, this is within your discretion, but remember, what your gross is often very different than what you net.
Correct.
And so, I think in Plaintiff's Exhibit A, counsel has given you that her net income is $3,600 per month.
Right.
And if that conflicts with what you're seeing on your application, on her application, it's really within your discretion to decide, keeping in mind that gross income is often higher than net income.
Yeah, but not half.
We also provided proof of income, so you can look directly at her documentation.
Okay. In the packet.
It's,
Okay, and that is in Exhibit A?
Correct.
Okay. So there we have it. Do you know what page it's on?
It should be
Oh.
labeled with her name in the top left-hand corner.
I see it. It's Caroline Parada, page 13,
they're not numbered.
is an earnings statement from FTD LLC.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yes.
So you may take that into consideration as well.
2,700
Yeah. 2757. Well, if you even take 70,000, it
Yeah, that's about, 2 times it by 26.
that's about it, yeah. Okay.
About
that-
70,000 a year,
Yeah, that answers it.
gross.
3,600.
Well, I don't know about the net, but she's grossing about 70,000 a year.
Well, she's grossing $70,000 a year. She should be taking home, I would say 50.
There's her paycheck on January 17th, 2025 was $1,812. Okay, so gross pay, $2,757. Net pay, $1,818. Taxes, family leave, dental, medical, vision,
The gross was 2,700,
gross
and she netted 1,500. Is that what you're saying?
net is 1,800, gross
So
27.
900.
And I don't know if this is monthly or
It's a 2 week.
2 weeks, so it'd be the 3,600. So when we looked at that 70, it just stuck out as an outlier, but it's not.
So her net income is 3,600 a month?
No, to look at it also, she's taking $161 out for savings, so her real net is $2,000 for this check roughly, or $4,000 a month, which would give credence to your $50,000 a year. Mr. Chair.
Down at the bottom of the pay stub, it'll say what her federal taxable income is for this period.
Right.
$150 a month increase is a little less than 15%. And it might address some of the discrepancy in the claims of all the problems with the apartment and the higher income that she might be earning.
Yeah, but those things can all be repaired.
Well, consider
I would say 20%.
moving ahead. Here's another one at 1150.
Mhm.
Okay. 22. So whatever we're really looking at with this one, it's got to be similar
Right.
at face value.
Right, until you look at this,
Mm-hmm.
and then you look at that, almost double.
Yeah, but if you're going to do 150 here, this one, you need to
Less.
consider making less.
Absolutely.
Is my point.
Agreed.
Okay. So what is your proposal?
I'll make a motion to increase Caroline's Parada's monthly rent from $1,050 to $1,200, retroactive to January 1, 2025 through the end of the year 2025.
You're only making a $150 increase?
Especially since we did like a 200 and a 210 for two other people that were pretty close to the same income.
So is that what you're saying, 150?
That's my motion. I don't know.
You said 150?
You think it should be higher? What do you think?
Are you going to withdraw your motion?
If you
I
think
was-
it's higher,
I was
I'll
thinking
withdraw my
like the
motion.
200
That's what I was thinking too.
I was thinking either 2 or 210.
I'll withdraw my
In line
motion.
with you.
with the other two.
So he withdrew his motion, someone make another motion.
I'll make a motion that we increase this the same as we did to
With Peters?
Mr. Peter Roberts, which would be
210.
210. And that would carry her through the end of 25.
That's 12, that would be 1260 then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Correct.
Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Any other discussion?
And
So then
and-
that would go through to 3/31/26 if her lease expires on 3/31/25.
That is correct. I amend that a motion to continue through 3/31/25. Excuse me, 3/31/26. Correction.
Well, is she going to re-sign a new lease?
If she wants to, she'll do it at 1260. If she doesn't,
She won't. All in favor?
aye.
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 Right.
Okay, Margaret Pastorak. have income.
$5,200 net.
52.
She has
She says she
a,
has a smaller two-bedroom apartment. What is the size of that? Does anybody know?
that one, I don't know.
No updates have been done. Original kitchen, carpet, and appliances.
And she lives alone. Not much, yeah, not a lot of information. No.
Yeah, no complaints really.
Yeah. And at 1450, we go back here, where we raised Lewis 100, 2200. And she's making twice as much money, so.
What do we raise?
We raised his 100 from 1450 to 1550.
You could go 200.
I think that sounds reasonable.
200?
Reasonable.
Okay.
And his contract is through March 31st, 2025. So it's the same situation. Increased by, proposally increased by $200 for a period of a year through March 31st, 2026.
Are you making a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Second. Any discussion on that? $200 increase?
How many people does she have living with her?
She, I believe, lives alone. Yes.
Yeah. Any other discussion?
Excuse me, can you just repeat the amount?
An increase of
Increase 200.
Okay, thank you.
He made a motion, he seconded. No more discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're at Mora Benoit.
Who are you on?
Mora Benoit.
Oh. Okay.
I don't have anything on her.
Jennifer Benoit. Is she up here?
Is more Jennifer.
Jennifer
Okay,
Benoit.
Jennifer, but
I don't
Jennifer
have,
the
I
same
don't
as
have
Maura?
anything.
No, it's
On
two
Maura.
separate files.
What did she do? I saw her somewhere. Where did I see her? Here. Over here. On your plaintiff's exhibit, second page.
I didn't see a complaint.
I don't see one.
No, over here,
Right.
second page.
Yeah, but it's,
Turn the page.
maybe I don't have a,
Well, we have, we can tell you what it is.
oh, on the second page I have Maura.
That is correct.
Okay, and the complaint is Jennifer.
No,
No.
we don't have one of those. All we have is this for more.
There was another file by the name of Jennifer Benoit, but she did not attend the hearing,
Okay, thank you.
so we'll be hearing Maura.
Okay.
And where do you see it in this? Is it?
It's not in there.
I don't see Maura in. the
Jennifer's
file.
in there.
Jennifer is, but
The
not
only
Maura.
place I found more was on, for instance, Exhibit A
Yeah, I don't have,
on the second page.
Okay.
I can copy one.
I have one. I have Maura's application, the complaint form. Is that what your packet is missing?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we didn't have one.
not in here.
Would you like to take a break so Ms. Anderson can make copies for all of you?
No, I'm willing to listen to the
Okay.
chairman. If everyone else is.
Yeah. Okay, we have more of them right here. Let's see. Her past rent was $11.50. Proposed rent is $16.50. Monthly increase of $500 or 43%. Her monthly income is $2,022. She's lived and worked in East Lyme since 1955 on fixed income, Social Security, and sporadic income, $5,000. I no longer drive at night, but can walk to downtown. Window I cannot keep on my other expenses has affected my ability. Increase from $150 on 11/30/24. Amount of rent paid now is $16.50 per month, effective 2/1. Amount of proposed increase is $19.50. They agreed to a $500 increase in my new lease. So that sounds to me like she's paying $16.50 right now. She's been there 19 years. When was the last rent increase? Uncertain. Has there been rent increases during your residency? Yes. If yes, for how much and when? $9.50 to $11.50 for 19 years. Only one adult living in the unit. Total household income for 2023 is $29,836.
Same thing.
Social Security, $24,264. Seniors helping seniors, $5,572. No updates have been original kitchen carpet and appliances.
Comment on your reading there. We've interpreted the Exhibit A with past rent. In this case, it's $11.50, where the proposed and current rent $16.50.
It says that she's paying. Amount of rent paid now, $16.50 per month, effective 12/1. Amount of proposed increase was $19.50, effective 11/30, but obviously they agreed to $500 increase to my new lease.
I have a question. You said that her total house income in 2023 was $29,836?
2023.
Right. I have that attached to a Margaret, the one that we just got done doing.
Well, this is more H. Benoit.
Well, then, in Margaret's, has that page in it.
I don't see a Margaret.
The same page?
Uh-huh, yeah, I'll show you. I'll pass it down. Right there. And if you look at the first page, it's the Margaret.
Yeah, it's the same page. It's signed by Oh, that's the representative. Yeah, it's the exact same page.
So who's who?
That's more, right?
It's similar to the same signature.
Yeah, the first letter's an M, I think.
Maybe that's not supposed to be there.
If I can help the commission in this regard,
Mhm.
if you look at Plaintiff's Exhibit A and go to page 14, I see a Charter Oak Credit Union statement of account in the name of Maura H. Benoit, 468 Main Street, apartment A305. It shows a Social Security deposit of $2,086. And then there's more income verification from Social Security on page 15. And that is the income information before you from Maura Benoit.
Okay. Treasury,
So,
2251. So
More or
that's,
less, yeah. Doesn't change anything.
so we got back here Social Security 24, which is on here 264. She doesn't have a 29 on here, does she? No.
I think it's like we
Yeah,
have
that's a very similar, but I disagree with the chairman. I think we're going from this place, not this place, just like we did
Yeah.
for Cheryl Cantalon.
Mhm.
We used $11.50 for Cheryl and added $150 a month because she was going to be raised to $19.50 as well. And Laura is at $11.50, similar income. So I'm thinking we're going from $11.50 to raise $150.
You want to do what?
I propose we raise the rent from $11.50 by $150, as we have on another tenant with similar income, similar size apartment,
And how much are you raising?
$150. And I believe I heard you, or I read that her increase would start 2/1, so I'm assuming her,
So that's going to bring her to 1,300.
correct.
That was all one, sorry.
I think there's been a correction, and I think it would be appropriate for the commission to hear this, is that it meant to say 12/1.
It went into like December 1st, 2024.
Okay,
Okay.
The 16th.
okay.
Can I also clarify, you mentioned this is a similar file to Cheryl Cantalon. The amount that you increased her was 100 per month, not 150.
I wrote 150.
That was the initial,
No, then we changed it to 100.
Okay,
I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
thank you, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
We
Is
will
that
do
what
this-
you have, Ms. Anderson?
I have that we're raising $150.
No, I think, could you state the clarification again?
For Cheryl Cantalon,
Okay.
the final amount is $100. A $100 increase.
Cheryl, we raised,
The initial amount was withdrawn.
we raised it 100 to 1250 through 1231.
And Maura makes less than Cheryl.
Follow suit, huh?
Follow suit, exactly.
So increase 100.
So, in the case of Maura Benoit, we'll increase by $100, making the rent $12.50.
I thought you
Starting,
said, no, I thought you said 150.
well, we've corrected the amounts for Cheryl Cantillon, and my comparison was to Cheryl Cantillon. There's an equal income, equal increase, equal base rent. So I think it would be unfair to raise 150 as opposed to 100. So in correcting it, Cantillon raises 100, and I propose Maura Benoit raises also 100 a month.
All right, that's what you want.
I second that.
For 12 months.
12 or 13 since it started
13 at the end of the year, yes.
through the calendar year 2025.
Okay, you made the motion, you seconded?
Did.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Judy Puloof. Do we have her income?
$22.94 a month.
$3,000. 3,000 a month.
Huh?
3,000 a month.
Oh, it's 3,000 a month?
Yeah, 3,000? Oof. Yeah, $29.96, 3,000. Of the other
And then you
$11.50.
get to put the blue, between blue and
Okay.
blue, the
Mhm.
2 P's.
P squared.
That's it.
Okay, let's see. You want to raise her rent by 800, which I feel is very unreasonable. Amount of rent paid now is $11.50. Amount of proposed increase was $19.50. She's been there 22 years.
Wow.
Last rent increase was in 2023 for $100. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. I imagine it's one of the small ones.
Do you have the second page of the complaint? Or Ms. Plouffe?
Her rent increases, she hasn't done it since 2017, $950, 2018, $987, 2019, $987, 2020, $1050, 21 still $1050, 22 still $1050, 23 $1150, and 24 $1150. Alpha Capital is now asking me to pay $800 more per month. And she obviously feels that's unreasonable.
I think we can take into consideration under the 13 factors that she in particular has had successive increases over the last several years. Just doesn't pertain to this landlord, correct, counsel? If someone has been paying increases every year, let's say, in succession, regardless who owns it, one of the factors of the statute says you can take that into consideration.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter that it wasn't Alpha, the landlord at the time, these increases year after year were being levied.
That's correct.
Still is only a total of $200 over 7 years. So they weren't,
Right.
drastic increases.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so, oof, it's 1150. We have another 1150, didn't we, right there? 2200, 1150, we went up 100. 1150,
It's probably about 1,000 more.
that was 100. How about,
25?
okay, let's see, 150, but yeah.
Let's see what
what that looks like.
Well, 12% would be 138, we could go to the 140, or we go to the 13%.
Okay. Let's do 150, that's a nice round number. I'll buy her a cup of coffee.
That's really only about 13%.
Okay. Okay. Go for it.
Make a motion to increase her rent $150.
That's just the number I had in my mind.
I'll second that.
And her contract, or lease rather, ends January 31st, 2025. So we look at the typical 12 months.
Starting February 1st.
Correct.
Who made a second?
I do.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I see there's one more on here,
For me, please, the dollar amount.
$150. I noticed we have one more in here, but it was not on that list.
Right.
We have Jennifer Benoit.
You recall that Jennifer Benoit was not at the hearing.
Right.
And she is not represented by counsel. So, and I had called out to ask if she was in the room, and there was no response. So you would not decide that matter tonight,
Okay.
or ever,
Okay,
unless she reapplies.
okay, that's fine.
Can I just clarify for Maura Benoit what the effective date is? Are we retroing or?
December 1st, 2024 through 2025.
Okay.
And just a question for general town hall, do we have a shredder? When all these documents pile up, we can bring them to you, and, yeah, because we don't want to, you have the master, you have the notes, this will all go.
We can take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one question for clarification? For Judy, that's going to be due 1/31/26, correct? On February 1st?
Judy,
So I
please.
just want to make sure I get that end date.
Yes, you are correct.
I have a question. We did on the John Basco, the very first one, we raised him 200. And if you look at his income compared to Judy's income, it's quite a bit different. And she's going to end up paying more rent each month than he is.
I think we did that because of his income, and his current rate was only $1,000.
Okay, all right. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
Huh? That's good. Well,
Mr. Carpenteri, you should take a motion to adjourn if you're finished your business tonight.
you want to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn for the night.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your help.